what the change was. Okay, what did I do that took a machine that was stuttering like crazy, even if I set my settings to low and had crazy high frame rates, why was I still juddering? Okay, I found it out. It was decrypting textures. Okay, so what do we need to do to give the machine, which I've got 16 gig of RAM and a 4 gig video card, every other game runs at ultra with no issues. What, as a performance or enthusiast person, did I do to break my machine, and what can I do to fix it? Okay, well, it's true. Ever since solid state drives have come to the market, and Windows' initial implementation of, I think it was Vista, wasn't really a solid state drive aware operating system. So most people would start to maintain things like their virtual memory, and often we would turn it off. Nowadays, with the amount of RAM in the typical computer, we don't run virtual memory. We feel we don't need to. Now, we kind of need to for Windows to build a log report. So I used to have my virtual memory set to a locked off minimum and locked off maximum size. And that worked for me. In every game, I didn't have a problem. And in games like Battlefield, even with ultra textures, I wasn't hitting the 3 or 4 gig of RAM on my card, and everything ran smooth. I never had a problem. But this game, as it turns out, I was VRAM short. So all I had to do was turn the VRAM up, and look, here I am sitting at 75. So when I'm driving through a really easy area to render, I'm up at my maximum frame rate of 75. And when I'm driving through really complex areas, even in the worst case scenario being in the car, which I'll get out of now because you, the viewers at home, probably want to see a pretty picture. And so I'll just make it the out of car view, because it certainly does render a lot quicker. In fact, I forgot to change it to the out of car view in Surface. If I had have done so, certainly with the FXAA turned off, we would have been seeing frame rates more in the 50s and higher to the 60s, even going through the tram stop. The low at the tram stop value would have been 55, even if I maintained my speed at several hundred kilometres an hour. Now, I know people might not take my word for it. In fairness, this video is only being posted so people can actually go, oh, hang on, that's not bullshit. There are people out there who can play this game smooth. That's the general consensus on the Forza thread, and the forums I should say, is that people are saying accusatory lies at people, saying, no, there's no way your rig can run this game smooth. My rig costs twice as much as yours, everything is vastly more powerful, and mine is just juddering. Okay? I used to have judder. For a whole week I didn't turn my computer on. I was just so miffed at the project of this game not running smooth. Okay? Now, it is true there are a few spots up in the mountain and the tundra up here that will cause a machine to generally slow down. I'm not going to go hunting out the worst of spots. What I will do is I'll drive into the Byron Festival, which is another area where machines would generally stutter or run very low frame rates. Okay, and just to create a bit of a worst case scenario here, I'm just going to pop into the tunnel, and all the sorts of things that force changing of texture sets and stuff that would in the past absolutely cripple my machine, or at least create judders, and they don't anymore. Okay, there's basically nothing I can do anywhere to create a judder in this machine. So what I'm going to do, okay, so what it was, virtual memory, guys. Set your virtual memory sizes. Set your virtual memory at a locked low and a locked high is generally ideal. Set it well above whatever you'll need. In the past I had it set to 4 gig. What I did is I changed it to 10 gigabytes. As soon as I did that, I have not seen any 100% CPU utilization in this game, and all frame rate lows, that is the immersion breaking judders, have completely disappeared. In fact, I'm actually getting screen tearing now because I'm rendering above 75 frames a second, and that's a setting I can change through the AMD driver page. I can just set a maximum or a cap at 74 or 75 frames a second, and that will actually enforce an easier time on my video card, and any time that the machine is going to render above my monitor maximum frame rate, it will actually just have the video card just do less. And that's not always a bad thing. It makes your video card run a bit cooler, but I certainly have no problems with this game and running at any temperatures or any such. Okay, so it just showed there I'm sitting about 60-65 frames a second, and I'll put it in worst case scenario mode. Okay, so we're back in car. I'm doing 51 now coming in. Now remember, this is with all the anti-aliasings cranked. All settings generally set to high or ultra. 53 is my low there, 51, there we go. So that's coming into the Byron Festival. That's all the balloons and all the crazy stuff going on. It's all running fairly smooth. Okay, so what have we got coming out of here? 55 frames a second still. I'm just going to, coming out of the menu, go back out of that view. Okay. Another fun view is generally the bonnet mode. I personally think that the patches in this game have been taking away performance. I think the developers have been having a hard time figuring out why is everybody complaining so badly, and they've been basically reducing PC performance and giving us things like, and I'm sure I'm seeing it, shadows updating at a lesser refresh rate, and that's not just based on shadow quality settings. I'm seeing pop in and distances that I didn't get when I first had the game. Don't get me wrong, I'm not being a negative Nell here. Look, one of the first patches they gave vastly improved performance of the game on solid state drives. Things like replays when you got to the end of them didn't need to be completely, it didn't have to reload the replay at about 30-second load time after one of the first patches, and all the solid state drive performance was returned to where it should be. That is, the game was loading quickly in alignment with how I expect. Okay, so I'm sitting there at about 60 frames a second, and at the end of the day, 60 frames a second is the upper frame rate on most people's monitors, and most people aren't running an extra 30% pixels, which is the 21:9 mode. I highly recommend this game. Is just gorgeous, it's beautiful. If you've got an Xbox and you've only got an Xbox, great, get it on that. If you've got a Ninja PC and you want to use your wheel from a generation before what the current Xbox supports, you know, you might have a bit of luck. And remember, if you buy the game digitally, you get it for PC. So look, I had to buy it digitally. I've chalked up Xbox sales, even though I don't have an Xbox and on principle won't buy one, mostly because of things like them not supporting controllers of last gen. Look, Sony did the same thing with the PS4, but at least they said it's on developers. They want to implement steering wheel support in a game, and a lot of developers have, you know. So the old Driving Force GT, which is what I use on the PlayStation, is supported in a few of the games. And you know, we don't want to play games like Drive Club on a control pad. Certainly, Forza is such a beautiful game. I'll play it on keyboard for hours if need be, but you know, it's not always the preference. So look, I'm just going to go a bit cross country here. It's time to just, you know, show that there ain't anything in this game that can break it. We're sitting here at 60-70 frames a second. The typical user is going to have a lot easier time of rendering this game, certainly than the settings that I've got currently set. So if anybody out there can't get 60 frames a second smooth at the moment, if their core is absolutely bottlenecked, okay, so run something like Logitech Arcs or some way of actually seeing what your CPU is doing. If core 1 is absolutely flat out, guys, what's happening is your textures are being decrypted on the fly, okay? What you need to do is open up your memory pool. Even though I've got 16 gig of RAM, and even though the game steals it, that is to say, if I've got my web browser open, mate, this game will close down. Even though it's only using 5 gig of RAM, my 16 gig of RAM just isn't enough, okay? This game is not optimised for PC. It is clearly designed as a title to show Xboxes are more powerful than they really are. That is by showing PCs are less powerful than they really are. So, look, this game is a win for players all over the world, so long as it's working right. I hope that the developers don't get the game any further. I don't think we need reduced draw distances or, you know, less like no shadows in the reflections or the mirrors in our car. I really do like cockpit view. I'm really happy that with going to next gen consoles, we're getting cockpit view back again, because the last generation of consoles, the bullet point for a lot of developers to get slightly prettier looking screenshots on the back of a box that consumers would buy would be, you know, higher res